Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be beginning a new series for Portal members entitled The Golden TAYA, Ascension Lands. In this photograph here, you're seeing the Valley of San Luis from the perspective of up in the Crestone area, looking down upon the San Luis Valley. When I lived here before in 1995, I wrote an article for Temple Doors called The Spiral Tower. So we're going to begin with that. I'll be reading it and commenting on it. In the Baca Grande, adjacent to the town of Crestone, Colorado, is 80 acres containing a hill upon which arises a yellow-gold ziggurat or spiral tower, as seen in this picture here. It arises from the landscape with the mystical Sangre de Cristo mountain range, including majestic Mount Blanca in the background. The ziggurat was supposedly built by a young man from the Middle East who is the current owner of the property. Well, I don't really know if now in 2018 he is the current owner. He was in 1995. He is said to have constructed it in memory of a lost love. Thoth tells us that the geomancy of the earth in this area, centering on the hill with the ziggurat, is especially powerful and an anchor point to the center of the planet. One of the places we did temple work when I first came to Crestone in this period of time, that in the 1990s, was at the ziggurat. Thoth suggested that we hold a focus for proper guardianship and stewardship of this land to come about. So that was way back then, and I still feel that I'm holding a focus for that. So Tehuti, Thoth, speaks on correlation between Glastonbury Tor in England and the ziggurat land in Crestone, Colorado, which he calls Aramur. That's A-U-R-A-M-U-R. The literal translation, heart, sun of the Mother Earth Sea. Our typical translation, bridge of the sun. And so now Thoth speaks about the area. Glastonbury and Aramur are connected by a golden etheric cord of light called the Phakini, P-H-A, or Phakini maybe, P-H-A-K-N-I. This was created by the Danann eons ago in preparation for the future relocation of the Ark to the Valley of the Golden Disk. Now, the Valley of the Golden Disk is what Thoth calls the San Luis Valley. And of course, at the time I wrote this, the thought of the sacred Ark being thresholded here was but a dream, a distant dream. You know, I never even dreamed that it would be in my lifetime and that I would be in this area when it was there. But I knew it was to come at some future date. So the Danann are the beings from the British Isles, actually, part human, part Davic, I guess you could say. And there's a whole story of how some of them got here to this valley and the important role they play in the guardianship of the sacred On, but also the preparation of the place, which was going on at this time. And so we go back and look at the material I wrote then, and we're talking about the Danann, eons ago, preparing for the future relocation of the Ark to the Valley of the Golden Disk. Glastonbury is the center of the Grail mysteries on the earth. Tor Hill is the center point of that center. In order for the Ark of Grace, that's the sacred On, to complete its program of light in the second millennium world, that's the phase we're in, it must be united with the codes contained in the Grail of Light. The resonating disk of golden grid lines synchronizes and unites all light-engendered consciousness within the sacred valley. It reformats this consciousness into a nesting or interlinking hologram, which is separate from the baseline of the second millennium reality. Now, I need to explain a bit again about this first, second, and third millennium business. I really wish at the very beginning, when Thoth had first given me this information about these millenniums, and that would have been, whoa, way back, probably in the 1980s, I would have said, wait, Thoth, that's going to be very confusing because we think of a millennium as 100 years. That's not what he's talking about. So I didn't at the time, and now it's through all my material, so I'm certainly not going to change it now. But he's not talking about 100 years. He's talking about these set periods where we deviated. We were on the first millennium, which was in sync with the Rana time wave, the wave that really keeps everything in order in our continuum and going. Then we deviated from that, and we created this second millennium reality that we're in now. And then when we go back into the new Earth star, or perhaps a little bit before, possibly as we're in the Pyramidus radius matrix stage, but certainly within the new Earth star, we go back into the third millennium. Well, not back, we're going forward, but the third millennium lines up with the first, except it's more advanced. It's in the second world system too. It's in the world system too. Pardon my rough sounding throat, but I'm recovering from the flu and it's still a lingering throat thing. Okay, so I want to continue here with what I'm reading now that we've got the millennium thing straightened. So Glastonbury is the center of the Grail mysteries on the earth. Tor Hill is the center point of that center. In order for the arc of grace to complete its program of light in the second millennium world, it must be united with the codes contained in the Grail of Light. The resonating disk of golden grid lines synchronizes and unites all light-engendered consciousness within the sacred valley. I realize I just read this, but I'm reading it again. It reformats this consciousness into a nesting or interlinking hologram, which is separate from the baseline of the second millennium reality that we're in now. This process is gradually establishing a reality frame that will be an intermediary between the crumbling orotronic second millennium and the future third millennium. Now, it sounds to me like what he's speaking about here would be the Pyramidus radius matrix. Now, remember, I didn't receive that, until about 4 years ago, about the Pyramidus radius, but it's hinted about in various places, and I believe this is one of them. The land we define here as Aramur contains the dynamic code link through Ziggurat Hill to the Sun Atoma at the center of the Earth. This is the anchor or bridge of the Sun that keeps the golden disk in balanced resonance within the center of the planet and its sun-rose core. Now, when it's speaking of the golden disk within the center of the planet, I'm not exactly sure what it means there, because the golden disk is an actual high energetic golden disk that is buried underneath these sand dunes. So now it's talking about an anchor for the golden disk in balanced resonance within the center of the planet. So all I can think of here is that there is an extension of that energy field into the center of the planet. But let's read on and see what happens. Now, I haven't read this. I'm reading it to you for the first time. I haven't read this since probably around the time I wrote it, maybe a little after, but not that much further. So here we go. Glastonbury, the font of the crystal Isle of Avalon, contains some of the purest light codes for the coming planetary ascension. These are embedded like fine pearlized crystal beads in the sacred vestments of the land. In transferring these codes through the golden cord to Aramur, they must pass via Tor Hill through the central Sun Atoma or Sun Rose upward through the Ziggurat Hill into Aramur. This path of holy fire transfigures the light codes of Glastonbury into a fiery shield of diamond light called the, oh boy, here we go, Huro-i Shavama, Huro-Ishavama. That is Huroiishavama. This is the Merkaba of the Metatronic Lords of Light. Outpicturing through Ziggurat Hill, the Huro, I'm going to call it, is contained for the time being in a cell of brilliance, which we shall call by its Mari name, Samati, the Pearl House. Interdimensionally, the Pearl House is maintained beneath the Ziggurat. It shields and protects the Huro, also masking the powerful Metatronic field projected from this Merkaba, or Merkaba, I never know which way to say it, preventing it from disrupting the second millennium reality still present in the San Luis Valley, or Valley of the Golden Disk. At a future time, this diamond light shield will arise from its Pearl House to create the Merkaba field for the receipt of the Ark of Grace into its domain in the Sacred Valley. Now, this took place because we already have now, for the last, 3 or 4 years, we have this sacred on here, fresh holding in its final place on the earth. But at the time this was written, it was not. So let me read that again. At a future time, this diamond light shield will arise from its Pearl House to create the Merkaba field for the receipt of the Ark of Grace into its domain in the Sacred Valley. So that's already a risen state, and I'm thinking that it is what happened just prior to my moving back here that created the Manasari, which is that shining light presence between the two points of the sacred on. And that's a whole nother topic, but those of you who are familiar with it, this is what I'm receiving. This is a relationship here. Glastonbury is the main interface with Aramur through Ziggurat Hill, while other major sacred sites are accessed interdimensionally. One of these sacred sites is the Crystal Tower in the Valley of the Blue Star in Tibet. That's that interdimensional valley that Thoth has been speaking about for many, many years, back into the 1980s, that he mentioned it to me. Another is the Magdalen Tower in Rennes-le-Château, France. Both Glastonbury Tor and Aramur's Ziggurat Hill are major entry points to the planetary labyrinth grid. This grid connects all labyrinths of pattern in the outer dimensions, as on the floor of Chartres Cathedral in France, and the underground labyrinths that may be found beneath such sacred structures as St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, and the inner planes, such as the Ra'um, established by the Order of the Burning Bush through Tribe Light, and that you'd find in Source Issue 288. So we continue now. And so now I'm reading from, within this article that 1995 article, I've quoted from an excerpt from the Arthurian Tarot, a HoloQuest handbook by Caitlin and John Matthews. So this is a quote from there on the spiral tower of the Tarot. Description: high upon a high tor, a tower is struck by lightning. Masonry falls to the ground. But while the physical tower is shattered, a spiral tower of crystal remains. Now I'm going to stop for a moment, because in the more recent information that I received just since I've returned, or basically just before I returned, like a month before, and I placed it in I received the 7 prophecies of the Star Eagles. You might recall that video. And in it, it speaks about lightning striking this tor, this Ziggurat Hill, and turning it to crystal. And that is the signal of the return of the Star Eagle tribe from the heavens. So now I'm reading this and it kind of, resonates here. While the physical tower is shattered, a spiral tower of crystal remains. Above the Tor, the signs of the zodiac glow within the land. An owl flies upwards. The background. Throughout the search for the Grail, the questers encounter many dangers and tests. Only one seeker is destined to find the regenerating vessel in each age, although it is a quest which all seekers are directed to follow individually. The Grail finder in the Arthurian legends is Percival and Bors. The Grail is only achieved by the worthiest candidate for the kingship of the land. When it is achieved, the Grail passes out of manifestation as a symbolic cup and becomes imprinted in the life of the land and its peoples. This cycle of change is seldom appreciated, being viewed as a catastrophic alteration of the patterns of space and time. This is apparent in the later Arthurian cycle, where the achieving of the Grail heralds the breaking of the Round Table Fellowship. But though the Round Table Knights meet no more, the concept of the fellowship remains etched in the land itself. Now, as I'm reading this, I'm receiving from Thoth a vision of the Templar order, the renewed Templar order of the 21st century, of which I am a part here with my Priory of the White Stone, and also the Crestone area is really the major point on the North American continent for the entire Templar order. Nothing has been physically built here yet for that, but that is coming. It indeed is coming. And I mention this because Thoth is showing me the relationship between what is being said here and the establishment of a true presence in field of enlightened energy, coming literally reconstructing the energy dynamic of the Arthurian round table here on the earth at this point with the energized point of referencing to enter the field of the, what do I want to say here, between this point here, the ziggurat on its Tor Hill, and the Tor Hill of Glastonbury. There is a correlation here that will allow the anchoring of the true Templar order once again in the earth at this point. Maybe not necessarily where the ziggurat is standing, maybe so, but perhaps in another close location, but in this area. And this point will be the lightning-struck tower that holds that field and recreates the Arthurian round table here in this area through the device, the presence of the sovereign Templar order of the 21st century. Excuse me. And so to continue with the Arthurian tarot on the subject of the spiral tower, this cycle of change is seldom appreciated, being viewed as, well, I already read that, didn't I? Okay, let's continue further. The Grail is withdrawn in order that its influence shall become operative and remain so. The Grail winner also becomes withdrawn or dead to the world in some sense. Sometimes his physical body seems to die, as Galahad does at Sarras, upon looking in the Grail itself. In other traditions, it is Percival who wins the Grail. He remains in the other world or on the borders of this world and the other in order to mediate between the land and its peoples, becoming the new Grail king. In reality, the Grail winner lives a life beyond life. His physical body is the vehicle for earthly existence only. By his achievement, he or she is changed, transfigured, to partake of both existences, mediating the regenerative influence of the Grail to all seekers. Glastonbury has traditionally been associated with the Grail and altar almost from the beginning of tradition. It is a special place of pilgrimage, which veils a deeper reality. The physical contours of the land are aligned to inner potencies that can be contacted at different times of the year. It is perhaps for this reason that it has been called this holiest earth. There is no physical earth zodiac at Glastonbury. This is a transcendent reality mediated by the Grail Guardian, whose point of contact is the Tor, itself a locus, which is mystical and actual at once. The shattering of the round table as Earth sees its reformation in the other world. I'm sorry, I didn't read that correctly. The shattering of the round table on Earth sees its reformation in the other world. The spiral tower is the place of initiation within Celtic tradition. Each individual has a different experience therein. The archetypal meaning, the spiral tower represents the inner hostel of all seekers, where spiritual nourishment is given and deep instruction imparted. Within the logos, the fruitful land, it functions as the spiral pathway to the glass care of a new existence. Within its confines, the current Grail Guardian of the epoch will be found. Now that is the end of the quotations from the Arthurian Tarot, the Arthurian Tarot on the Spiral Tower. And we continue with Thoth here. Surely ascension lands, such as the Valley of the Golden Disk, are poised between two worlds. As the planet as a whole moves toward her destiny, those of us on the sacred lands, now actually I'm speaking here, must become Grail Knights who will move between these realms for the benefit of all. Glastonbury, England is the third eye or brow chakra of the Ascension Gate. I'm sorry, let me read that again. Glastonbury, England is the third eye or brow chakra Ascension Gate of the Golden TAYA. That's the Ascension Temple of the Earth. Just as the major portion of the San Luis Valley, including Crestone and Baca Grande, is the Crown Gate. Thus we see a strong transference through the two spiral towers between the vision and the ascension of that vision into a new dimension of actualization. Now that concludes that article, but I would like to say just a little more here. Much has shifted since I first wrote this, including this diamond light shield rising up to accept the sacred on into its thresholding chamber here in Crestone. And in the process of that, I am receiving that these new codes are being transferred from the vault of Torhana within or beneath Glastonbury Tor into the Tor here of the Ziggurat Hill, Haramur. And these codes are bringing forth some kind of an exemplification, that's the word I want to say, of the properties that have been held in perpetuity within the vault of Torhana and are now being transferred into the vault of Aramur or Tor Hill. So what Thoth is showing me is that there indeed is a vault beneath Tor Hill, obviously on a slightly different dimension. All of these things are slightly removed dimensions, most of them. I say slightly removed. We're not talking about a complete new dimension, other dimension, but are slightly removed. So you could still physically actually get into these places if you were allowed, but they're just that slight change. You'd have to just, like the twist of a wrist, move in or a key turning in a lock that would allow you to go into this slightly removed dimension. So I'm being shown at this time that there is a vault beneath the Torah. And this particular vault was fashioned, created by the Danan eons ago, and yet it remains empty, awaiting something. Yes, awaiting something. And so this concludes this particular installment of our Golden TAYA series. I'm making it a little shorter than some because I want to kind of break it down to be more listenable so that they're not too long. So this particular installment is complete, and we'll go on to the next one.